Are you starting to share your screen, Sarah?
Yes, I'm getting it ready, but I'm admitting people at the same time.
I'll do the admitting.
Okay, thank you.
Nikki, while I do the opening, would you mind admitting people? Nikki, can you hear me?
Yes, I.
Thanks, Nikki.
Okay.
Okay. Good morning to everyone on the call. My name is Sabina Helia, and I'm the chairperson of the Southern African Laboratory Diagnostic Association, also known as SALDA. Some housekeeping. You can see we're busy recording this call, so obviously participating in the call means you're giving consent. And also we abide by competition law and the guidelines thereof. So if there's anything that you feel you're uncomfortable with, please recuse yourselves. So I'm sure many of you will agree we continue to live in interesting times. We thought it might be opportune to look at things through a different lens, and therefore we approached Richard Wright to present to our SALDA members. In preparation for the call, Richard requested that I don't spend time introducing him, so I'm abiding by his wishes today. But I would like to just kick off by saying thank you very much to Richard for joining us. Welcome to our SALDA general meeting. And also thank you to our SALDA members for joining the call today. I hope you will agree this is something different. And we appreciate Richard sharing with us the journey he's been on. Over to you, Richard.
Sabine, thank you very, very much. Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for the gift of your time. I know we are all time poor, and right now I can just imagine what your world must look like. It's a world of trouble out there, but it's a world of opportunity, especially in terms of what you do. And thank you for everything that you're doing in these times. I'm pretty sure that it's tough out there. So what can I do to make a difference? And that's essentially what I'm going to be chatting about today. To Sabine, to Sarah SALDA for putting this together, I think just a really, really important message at this time, and amazing to be giving something back. And I think that's definitely to be recognized, and well done. So thank you for hosting me. You'll notice that my background is a little interesting. I couldn't find that jail cell right now that's very topical, the Escort one, picture of the Escort jail. So I figured I would find Alcatraz, right? But it's not so much topical, more than anything else, it's relevant. Why on earth would I want to be speaking from a jail cell or from a jail, right? So we have been, all of us have been impacted negatively by wave 1, wave 2, and wave 3 of COVID. Our movements have been restricted, our freedoms have been restricted, what we can eat, what we can drink, what we can't eat, what we can't drink, what we can do, what we can't do. It's all been restricted. But in essence, whether you are thriving right now or whether you are drowning in a sea of negativity is totally up to you, because the only prisoner that you really can be is a prisoner of your own thinking. So today I want to challenge that thinking, and I'd like to perhaps offer something different in a way of thinking in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of all the chaos that has gripped our country. How can we not just get out of this concept of bouncing back? We want to bounce back. Why bounce back? What is the point in going through struggles, challenges, tribulations if we're just going to go back? It's a concept of let's bounce forward, and how can I help you with that? So I'm going to try and tell in the short half an hour, tell some of my story, but more importantly, some of the lessons I've learned over the last 5 years of my life. So we're going to be talking about the power of purpose. And I really do believe that the only reason I still inhabit this planet in the form I now occupy is because of the power of my own purpose. And purpose is that thing. It's that thing that gets us to the finish line. It's the thing that gets us through hard times. It's a thing that enables us to be resilient. I'm pretty sure that you, just like me, have been personally impacted by COVID. It's become extremely real, very, very close. There's lots of sadness around us. And how do we keep on pushing forward? I was in Cape Town a couple of weeks back. Right now, I'm in Rand Park Ridge, Johannesburg. And isn't it amazing the opportunities over this time? I would never have thought a year and a half ago that delivering a talk or a presentation on staring into this little camera would have any impact at all. You know, why would we want to do that? And I've realized it really is an opportunity to engage with people where they are at. We're having a two-way conversation. It's just you and me. How amazing is that? Before I forget, there will be a Q&A session at the end. If you've got a hard stop and you need to go, that's okay. I can stay on for about another 15, 20 minutes. I'm happy to answer any questions that you've got, and anything goes, any questions at all. But I was in Cape Town a couple of weeks back, and a very good friend of mine there gave me this mug, and it says, "Hold it together," because she understood it was a tough week for me. At the beginning of last year, I went into remission for the third time. I'll tell you a bit more about that, but went into remission for the third time, celebrated big. My partner, Deborah, we've been in a long distance relationship. She was in Port Elizabeth, myself in Johannesburg. She'd moved up, we'd moved in together. The first time since I got divorced 11 years ago that I was living with somebody again. My calendar was booked up as a global speaker, flying all over the place. And I was like, yes, finally my life is like pulling together, right? And in the first 3 days of hard lockdown, I lost 100% of my future income. Every single gig, every event, every conference was cancelled, postponed indefinitely. So it's been a tough time, right? As it has for you, I'm sure. By the way, if you've got a significant other partner with you in wherever you are in the house, perhaps if you're still at home, get them to come and sit on the couch next to you or come and watch as well, because I'm pretty sure that energy, it is contagious. So it's not good enough just for you to be feeling a bit better after this talk. Let's spread the circle a little bit more and spread the love. So she gave me this mug because I was going in for medical testing, right? And it was a tough time for me. And that was the same week that South Africa literally fell apart and was burning. And how do we hold it together? And a very good friend of mine, Mike Stopforth, you might know him as well, posted this, which I think is a very simple and very clever and apt illustration on social media. And it pretty much controls how we think. If you look at that little orange square in the middle there, that represents what we see online. If we're looking at the news, we're looking at what is happening out there, that is that tiny little block of what we see out of the green square, which is the full picture. And none of us have the full picture. The newspapers don't have the full picture. The media do not have the full picture. Nobody has the full picture. Remember that any news is determined by who owns that news paper or that stream or whatever it is, who is employed by them to think a certain way and report on things a certain way, and then comes back and sub-editors look at these things and decide what we're going to include, where we're going to include it. Are we going to put it on page 7? Is it going to be on page 1? And just that tells you how important it is or not important. So everything out there is very carefully put together for us by somebody who also has their own bias, right? So that tiny little picture of what we see represents a minute segment of what is the real truth, but unfortunately it determines the entire picture of how we think. And how we think determines our behavior or determines our actions. So what I really want to talk to you about today is how we can control our thinking in a way that can give us a different future. We've all got an idea of a finish line, something we want to attain, something we want to do, some place we want to get to. And what happens so often, like last year, is, we've got an idea of where the finish line is, and then you'll see that there are 3 letters that are a different color and a little bit bigger than the others. WTF, what the fudge? Something happens that just throws us a curveball, and then sometimes we battle to see where that finish line is. So the picture that you're looking at there isn't so much a finish line, but it's a start line. The event is Ironman South Africa. It doubles up as the African Champs. It's an event that I was really good at before cancer, something I thrived at. I was never a pro athlete, always competing as an amateur, yet I was successfully able to beat a bunch of professionals, come 16th overall. I've won my age group. I've qualified for World Champs a number of times. Half Ironman, I've come 11th overall, something I was good at. For those of you who might not know, a full Ironman is a 3.8 swim, 180-kilometer cycle, and then finishing it all off with a 42.2-kilometer run. So it's a fair amount of distance, right? But here's the cool thing. You've got 17 hours to do it in. 17 hours. Now, some of you are sitting there thinking, number one, looking at that distance, thinking, Richard, you're a little bit nuts. And then, Richard, 17 hours, there's nothing great about that. That's like a full day of hurting your body, right? So here's the power of the thinking, is whether you think you can do a full Ironman or whether you think you can't do a full Ironman, you are 100% correct. And so it is with all of our thinking. And that's just how the brain works, right? But way back in 2015, I found out that I was not so invincible. I wasn't the Iron Man that I thought I was. I would go for an 8 or a 10-kilometer run, and then literally for a week after that, I wasn't able to do any exercise. And I knew what the symptoms were. I'd been struggling with this tiny little tumor on my pituitary gland called a prolactinoma. And for months, I'm speaking to people who know all about these things. How amazing is that? But I was diagnosed back in 2004, and we were able to medicate. It was obviously non-cancerous, benign, and I would recognize the symptoms, go to my neuro, we'd do the MRI, get onto the drug Dostinex, and then it would respond and shrink, and so it went. But at that time in 2015, I knew that something was drastically wrong. I went to go and see my neuro, we did an MRI, and we found out that the tumor had grown substantially. It was no longer a microadenoma, but a macroadenoma. And that was the first time in my life the words brain cancer and Richard Wright were uttered in the same sentence. And I did what all of us would do, right? We go to Dr. Google. And I couldn't even find pituitary cancer on the normal search engines. I had to look at the medical search engines. It's that rare. And it was immediate. There's no ways I could have this. Absolutely no ways. It's just so freakily rare. And no. And you know that it's exactly what happens when we Google anything on Dr. Google. Is it's always the same diagnosis, right? I could have some intermittent pain in my left elbow. I can get headaches from time to time. I type that into Dr. Google and I sit back and say, what do I have? And Dr. Google always says the same thing. He leans close and says, you have death. It's always the worst case scenario, right? And that's the click rate. That's we're rewarded by sensationalism, whatever. And unfortunately, that's exactly what Google said, is that there is no, if you've got this form of cancer, well, there's no ways that you can do an Ironman. There's no ways that you can even exercise, and it's extremely aggressive and rare, and you're not going to make it. So I was like, there's no ways. I was determined that I was still going to do the Ironman, because at that point in time, I was needing to prove to myself that, the denial that surely I don't have this. And if I can do a full Ironman, I do not have this form of cancer. So imagine then what it felt like. It was a long day, the longest day I've ever had an Ironman. I trained very little. And this picture is a picture that my 10-year-old daughter captured at the finish line. Just this triumph and victory. There's no ways I could possibly have cancer. 5 days later, I was booked for a lumbar puncture with my neurosurgeon. And imagine then when the results came back from the laboratory, that I went into theatre. And yeah, you know very well that that's not a nose op. It's called transphenoidal surgery, drilling through the brain and through the nose to get to the brain. And all I wanted to know from my surgeon was, did you get it all? Please tell me that it's gone. He'd done some research. He'd never seen this form of cancer before. He'd spoken to a couple of fellows overseas, and they'd all said the same thing. You need to remove as much as possible, scrape the pituitary, or perhaps even remove the pituitary. But that's your best chance of making sure that it doesn't spread. And at that point in time, we were still trying to figure out, is this the primary site? Was it metastasized from somewhere else? But it didn't matter. His words were what mattered. It was, I'm pretty confident that we got it all. It was bigger than we expected. It had already grown. We had to cut it up in tiny little pieces and take it out from the inside out. But I'm pretty confident that we got it all. So immediately it's brain cancer. None, Richard, woohoo, 1. And about 6 weeks later, I was booked in for routine radiation. It was an insurance policy to make sure that they'd got it all. And just because I was so worried about the fact that it was such an aggressive form of cancer that not much is known about. There's no research for it. There's no treatment for it. It's just too rare. And it was on the 12th treatment, radiation treatment, that I went in and I was due to have an MRI. It's about the last time that the radiation specialist can have a look and determine much in the brain, because obviously every time you go in, you're nuking the same spot and there's swelling and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It can't go anywhere because of your skull, and it becomes a bit of a mush. Everything blends into each other and it's very difficult to make out anything. So again, Richard, the Ironman athlete, goes in thinking there's nothing wrong. This is just routine. And I think the good thing about radiation was the actions. It felt like I was doing something. I wasn't sitting at home just wondering and thinking, is it okay? Has it all gone? I was actually doing something. And for all of us, and I think it's been one of the hardest things over this time, is that there's so little we can do from a COVID point of view, besides we can't even see this thing. It's wash your hands, sanitize, social distance, do all of that, but what else can we really do? And I went in and then obviously we were waiting for the results from laboratories, and it's a time that I call scanxiety, where the anxiety when you're waiting for results or scans or whatever it is. And one of two results is going to, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to get a phone call from the nurse, the receptionist, and either it's going to be, Mr. Wright, delighted, your results are back, everything's clear, we need to make an appointment in 6 months' time for you to see the specialist, or it's the other one. Mr. Wright, your results are back. We need to make a time for the neurosurgeon to walk you through the results. And it doesn't matter how hard you try and get the results out of this person. It's an emphatic no. You need to wait and chat to the specialist. And at that moment in time, you know that something is wrong. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for what came next. That is the first time another human, looked me deep in my eyes and told me that my time on this planet had a finite end date. And I remember I didn't take somebody in with me because, again, I'm super confident. It can't be that bad, right? I'm just going to go in there. We're going to get the news and we're going to deal with it. And I really wish that I had, because I don't remember much after those words. By best estimate, you have 6 months to live. I remember my mind grappling for a date and thinking, okay, 5th of December, I can take a black pen and I can cross out everything after the 5th of December. And starting to think, okay, what does that mean? What does that mean? It means I'm not gonna have another Christmas. Am I gonna be able to see another birthday with my girls? And then I remember getting acid, extremely angry with this person who was delivering this news. How dare you tell me that you think that you know me? Who are these people that survived or didn't survive? Were they also Ironman athletes? How dare you tell me that you think that you know what is going to happen to me? Impossible not to feel like you are a victim. And there I was, a legitimate victim of brain cancer. Just like that first wave. Let me take you back to that first wave, that first hard lockdown, the first couple of weeks stuck in your home. That feeling of, I just want normal back. I just want Richard back before cancer. Am I ever going to get that person back? I just want normal back. And then the fear of the future, the uncertainty. What is going to happen? Am I going to get COVID? Am I going to lose members of my family? What is going to happen to my business? What is going to happen? That fear. And then we get trapped in this space where we just want to go back to a past that no longer exists. And we are fearful of a future that also doesn't exist. And that means that we can't effectively navigate the now because we are so burdened by everything else. Naomi Judd said that you can only ever be a victim once. Thereafter, you are a volunteer. Whew. It's hard not to feel like a victim when everything about your life has changed. I was delivered this moment by my 10-year-old daughter, McKinnon. It's McKinnon on the right, Bailey on the left. And it was the last week of radiation. And I was struggling to keep it together. I didn't want my girls to know anything about the cancer. I had spoken to the therapist at the counselor at the oncology center, and we'd made the decision that until they absolutely had to know, kids deserve to be kids. And I didn't even want them to think about cancer and their dad. So they knew, obviously, I had a tumor. The tumor was removed. The radiation was to make sure that it didn't come back. And I picked up the girls from aftercare, and those weeks I had them were great because I had to put on my big boy jocks and just pretend and do the best, right? And Mac climbed into the car and she said, Daddy, I'm really sorry, but I've got this project and it's due for tomorrow. Now, you and I both know there's a problem with that sentence, right? A project is something that you give your teams for some time in the future. Homework is for tomorrow. She was apologetic and she said, I'm really sorry. And so as she's explaining, I'm like, okay, just what is it? 10-year-old little McKinnon says to me, Daddy, we need to put the solar system together. We need to go to a craft shop and buy a bag of polystyrene balls that are different sizes. We have to paint them like the various planets, measure them out in order, and put that thing together. I'm like, by tomorrow. Yes, Dad, I'm really, really sorry. You know, it's that project that you, and maybe you've done it for your 10-year-old daughter or 10-year-old son. There's no ways that they're going to be able to do that for themselves at the age of 10. You might allow them some artistic direction. And as soon as they start painting, you're like, okay, back. Wrong color, wrong planet, wrong color. Wrong. Do you know what? I tell you what, you go to bed and I'll finish this during the night, right? And then she comes to breakfast. Dad, did you finish the project? Hell yeah. Can I touch it? Step away from the project. And as you're taking to school, you gingerly hand in the project as they get out of the car, and be careful with that. Don't bump it. It is a masterpiece. And then as I picked it up that day, the first thing I asked, not the normal 10-year-old questions like, how was your day, bug? Who did you play with at break? Did you eat all your lunch? Am I going to send back the apple tomorrow as a return lunch? What are we going to do? It's none of that stuff. The first question is, what did I get for my project? She said, oh, Dad, they haven't marked them yet. And she's like, what am I paying these teachers for? And now it's like, I've done homeschooling. I know how hard it isn't, you know, or whatever. We don't pay the teachers enough. Anyway, every day I'm asking the same question. What do we get? What do we get? And then one day she comes to the car and I can see she's excited. And she says, Daddy, we got the marks back. 18 out of 20. Sorry, it sounded like you said 18 out of 20. She said, oh, Dad, that's really good. Did anybody else in the class get more? You know, it's that question. And she says, yes, Johnny, you got more. You got 19. You're like, I know Johnny's parents. There is no ways that they are capable of a project like mine. They must have got the art teacher or some outside helping. You know, it's that project. And here I am, slumped over the steering wheel, Bays Nordia, Easterhout Road, Lifestyle Nursery on the right-hand side. We're going to the Randwich Mall. And all I can think of is, keep it together, Rich, keep it together. This little voice pipes up from the back of the car. It's Mac. And she says, Daddy, are you okay? I said to her, sure, Mackie, I'm battling, but you know what? Let's go and get this thing done. And I just need to lie down and get my breath back, but I'm fine. Silence for a little bit. And then the little voice piped up and she said, Daddy, nobody said it would be easy. I whirled round. Where did that come from? You've never heard that from me. Did your mom tell you that? Where did that come from? And she got defensive and she said, Dad, I'm really sorry, but I don't know what else to say. Maybe that's what you need to hear from me today via my 10-year-old daughter at that time, that nobody said that life is going to be easy. And why is it that when it isn't easy, we act so often as victims and we blame things, and then even if we think, oh, I'm going to become this hashtag cancer warrior, you know, there isn't a treatment I wouldn't have tried. There was 2 different types of chemotherapy. There isn't 4 different types of cannabis oil. One of them was the suppository, and that wasn't great. But it didn't matter because I was doing whatever I could: keto diets, ozone therapy, hyperbaric chamber. But the more we focus on the obstacles, the more we become a victim of them. That day, I entered a full Ironman thinking that if I can just walk around the block, I'm taking control back. I realized at that time that I didn't have to be a brain cancer survivor to be a brain cancer survivor. And that sounds weird, right? But here's the thing. With stage 4 brain cancer, anything could still kill me. It's South Africa, right? I could be shot in my home. I could have an accident and die. I could have a heart attack. Who knows? And if anything else killed me, I was going to die a brain cancer survivor. That's big. And brain cancer did get me. What then? Well, then I'm no longer alive, and newsflash, it's going to happen to all of us, but then it doesn't matter anymore, does it? But until that time, so let me say this to you. It's a very important question. Do you live your life like you're a magnificent survivor of every single thing that has ever happened to you? Or are you just trying to survive today in the hopes that tomorrow is going to be better? It's a big question. Right now, if you're married, you're a marriage survivor. And if it's, married in the middle of COVID, wow, look at you. You're amazing. I'm not even married. And Deborah walks down the passage and I'm like, babe, can you please walk softer? You walk so loudly. It's irritating me. Everything is irritating us, right? So if you're still married right now, you're a marriage survivor. If you're divorced like me, not only are you a marriage survivor, you're a survivor of divorce. Yet how many people that you know wear this divorce thing like a badge? They're victims 8-10 years after they got divorced, blaming the other person for what their life is like. And If your house is mortgaged, you're a survivor of debt. If your car's financed, survivor of debt. You're a survivor of your kids, homeschooling your kids. What on earth would make you think that you're not going to survive whatever life throws at you next? How are you living your life? Imagine then when I went into remission later that year, and I celebrated big. I celebrated big because at that point in time, I was the 118th recorded person ever to survive the primary pituitary carcinoma. It was that big. Let me take you back to a moment. Remember when we got out of hard lockdown and you were like, I never have to have pineapple beer in my life again. And thank goodness my kids are gone back to school. Isn't that amazing? Remember that feeling? Remember that feeling when wave 2 hit and not even 6 months after wave 2, cancer's back. Somehow it was harder the second time, or was it? Was it harder that second time we went into a hard lockdown? I think we think it's harder. What about the third time? We think it's harder because we haven't got ourselves back to that place before it all started. We're not back to normal yet. You know, science says that 3 months of something becomes normal. This is normal. This is normal. But yet we've got this idea we want to go back to this other thing that we had. How much of your life was that fantastic that you want to go back to all of that? Maybe some of it, maybe a lot of it, but not everything. How about a future where we get to decide what we want to take with us and what our future is going to look like? Do you know, people say to me, Richard, I don't think I've ever met somebody with so much positive energy, somebody who's so positive. I want to just destroy that myth right now. I'm not the world's most positive person. I heard a week and a half, 2 weeks ago that my cancer was back. We into round 4, ding, ding, in the left corner, Richard Wright. Whew, that's tough. Last week I started chemo again. So I'm not holding it together every day, right? I'm not feeling incredibly positive. I'm feeling negative quite a lot of the time. But it doesn't matter because I'm a radical optimist. And what is that? What is the difference between being positive and being optimistic? This is me at the starting line of Ironman. I was still determined that it didn't matter if I had stage 4 brain cancer, I was going to complete an Ironman. That's the radical optimist in me. It's impossible to feel positive all the time. It's impossible. And when we try, we fail, and then we feel worse about ourselves because what is wrong with me that I can't be positive? What is wrong with me that I don't exude this positive energy in the midst of all this negativity? What is wrong with me? Please don't ever do that to yourself. But don't let go of the fact that you're a magnificent survivor of every single thing that you've ever been through in your life, which should give you radical optimism. So what is optimism? Optimism is the belief that the future can and will be better, and that I have the power to make it so. What on earth would make me think that I don't? But standing on that start line, all I could see in my mind were all the reasons I wasn't going to get to the finish line, all the obstacles that were sitting in my way. Worried about a heart attack, worried about not being able to handle the heat on the day because my pituitary wasn't working properly, worried about having a seizure on the bike, worried about all the reasons why I wasn't going to make it to the finish line, big reasons. And you might say, what on earth were you doing at the start line? Why were you there, Richard? That's the power of purpose. You know, I was only cleared that morning in the medical tent. And only that morning at the start line was I given a timing chip because the race organizers wouldn't let me compete until I had the race doctors okay. And we had a whole bunch of tests done. But when you want it badly enough, are you grounded in a purpose that you can easily articulate? You know, this is the first book that I released last year, written in the middle of COVID. And the response has been amazing. And I truly believe that I'm only here because of that purpose, that thing, right? And the second book is loading. It's called Path to Purpose, identifying 6 steps along a life or an organization's a journey towards more purpose, more of this thing. And in interviewing 32 people as a podcast series, people that have accomplished amazing things, people that are purpose drenched, and people that are experts in purpose. What I've realized is that purpose isn't this big thing that we aim at. It's not some big goal, this thing that we just, you know, that. It's not that. Purpose is a collection of all the little things that we do in a day that make us feel happy, excite us, and give us a sense of meaning. You want more purpose? Fill your life with more of those things. And you know, the finish line of an Ironman is a big thing, right? And if that doesn't make you feel happy, excite you, and give you a sense of meaning, then why do it? But that's not the hard part of an Ironman. That's not what an Ironman is about. The Ironman is about getting up in the middle of winter in Johannesburg when it's dark, going for a run, coming back, it's still dark. The only difference is you've got snot icicles hanging from your nose. If that doesn't give you a sense of happiness, excitement, and give you some meaning, then don't bother about that finish line. What is it along the journey? That's the purpose, right? That's the stuff, that secret sauce that fuels our soul and lights us up inside. If you're feeling like you don't have enough of that stuff, well, I'm going to leave you with something at the end that is going to help. There's my why. You see, every single time, and I've finished 5 full Ironman events with stage 4 brain cancer, 7 half Ironman races, and a bunch of multi-stage mountain bike races. And every single time I got to the finish line, I'm proving 2 things. Number one, I'm proving to myself that's the power of purpose and the power of our own thinking, that if I can do this thing that is seemingly impossible, that all my specialists have told me not to do, that everybody has told me I can't do, if I can do this, surely I can beat brain cancer again. And if I can do this, I'm proving to my 2 little girls that their dad is going to be okay. You know, hours of sitting on drips and hours spending time in oncology clinics and in hospitals. I've got pretty good at identifying cancer warriors, cancer survivors, cancer victims. And, you know, I can just see somebody coming through the door, and I can tell you just by the look in their eyes, just by their demeanor, whether this person is a cancer survivor or a cancer victim. And, you know, that doesn't mean that every single cancer survivor is going to beat cancer. It's a shitty disease, and it takes some of the hardest, strongest people. But every single one of those people is going to live longer. They're going to confound the doctors. They're going to turn those lab results on their heads, and they're going to have a better quality of life purely because 50% of overcoming is that the diagnostics. 50% is the black and white, the real stuff, the medicine, what those people can do, and 50% is what you think inside your own brain. How badly you want it. What is your purpose? What's most important along the journey to the finish line is that we just start somewhere. And very often that's the hardest part, right? How do we get out of this funk? How do we get out of this negative place? How do we even believe that we can make it forward or change anything going forward? There's just so much around us. We're just trying to stay afloat. We are languishing, as people are writing right now. What's most important is that you just start. And this is what the start line of an Ironman looks like, right? Yo, it's a bun fight. It looks like the spin cycle of a washing machine, right? You've got 2 choices. You can get swept up in the moment where you're focusing on everything but yourself. You're focusing on all the other athletes. You're focusing on, am I going to get hit on the head? Is somebody going to dunk me? Am I going to swallow water? What's going to happen? And then you start swimming fast because you want to just escape this, but you're not swimming with an effective stroke and your heart rate's going high. And that's no way to do an Ironman. Certainly no way to start one. Or you can figure out how to control the only thing you can control, the only thing you've got 100% control over in your life, and those are the thoughts in your head. And for me, I break it down. I just need to get to that red buoy. It's 300 meters away. I can break that down. It's 12 lengths in a 25-meter pool. That's 14 strokes per length for me. All I've got to do is focus on that, forget everything else, block everything else out. How do we do that? I'd like to suggest that this picture here represents your world. How much do you think I've got control over there? I've got control of my purpose. That's it. I can't control the water. I can't control the temperature of the water. I can't control the currents. I can't control the tide. I can't control the weather. I certainly cannot control my competition. I can't control the politics. I can't control the economy. I can't control COVID. I can't control the vaccine rollout. I can't control any of those things. I can't even control my kids, damn it. What I can control is this. So I speak to myself because we cannot multitask. Those of you who think you can multitask, stop thinking that. You are fast switching. Your brain isn't able scientifically to hold 2 thoughts at the same time. Very fast switching between one and another. And that means you're not doing anything effectively. But when we speak something, you can't actually physically speak it and be thinking something else at the same time. So I think to myself and say it. I'm strong, feeling good, strong, powerful, push forward, glide, breathe. Are you citing from time to time? And when I'm talking to myself all the time, I am controlling my thoughts, best possible outcome, getting to the finish line as quickly and efficiently as I possibly can. It's learning, what can I control and what do I need to let go of? Ask yourself that question. What can I control right now? And what do I need to let go of? The hardest is the run. It's always the hardest because you're in a world of pain. You're tired, you're sore, you've been out there for a long time. And that's when you really have to find the resilience, right? And again, I turned my race number over so people can't even distract me by calling out my name. I'm strong, powerful, strong, feeling good, strong, powerful, strong, feeling good. Do I feel that? No, but what happens is your brain confirmation bias, right? We choose the thoughts we put into our brains, and then our brains go to work to filter out everything that disproves this thought that we put in there and filter in everything that agrees with that thought. I'm not feeling strong. I'm not feeling powerful. I'm not feeling good. I'm sore. I'm worried about cramping. I'm worried about how much time I'm going to be out there, how many kilometers I still need to run. But when I choose the thoughts, my brain starts to filter in all the reasons to believe that I am feeling strong and powerful and feeling good. And before long, I'm managing everything. And I'm effectively moving towards my finish line. I had a super sport crew that followed me around that year. I was the story of Ironman. My kids were at the finish line waiting with a medal, and you can see the emotion on my face. Do you know that I finished that year in a time of 10:20? That put me in the top 9% of the 2,400 athletes that finished Ironman that year with terminal brain cancer. My body clocked out halfway through the cycle. I still have the Garmin file. I look at it from time to time when life gets tough. And you know that halfway through the cycle, not at any moment did my heart rate go above 123 beats per minute. It didn't matter what I did. I couldn't get my heart rate up above 123 beats per minute. My normal average for an Ironman is 158 to 160 average. I couldn't even get it up past 123. My body said, that is it. We are done. We haven't trained for this. We're not ready for this. We're not doing it. My purpose inside said, this is something we are finishing. It means that much. When you want it that badly, you will push through anything, and anything truly is possible. But it takes leadership of self. And right now, we've never been called upon to be leaders of ourselves more than we are right now. Somebody is looking to you for leadership. Somebody. What do they see? What does it mean to be a leader of self? This is the team that I put together around me. And forgive me, the laboratory team isn't here. And I realized that this morning when I went through this, I'm going to have to change this and put those lovely friends at all the laboratories that have performed literally thousands of tests. But isn't it amazing? Look at the bottom. My drug dealer became my herbalist when cannabis became legal. How cool is that? But what I realized, it didn't matter how amazing this team was, how specialized they were, how brilliant they were. And this is our team culture, dedicated to the best possible outcome, expertise, and belief. Those people in the lab were there because they're experts, right? You could be my mom. My mom is on my team. Why? She's the expert. There's only one. I have one mother. She's an expert. You're on my team automatically by default. But mom, the minute you don't believe that I'm going to survive this thing again, you're off my team. But you know what I realized? Doesn't matter what teams you've got around you. Doesn't matter the support of amazing associations like the one that we currently are engaging on. At the end of the day, it's up to you. At the end of the day, it's up to you. Yes, we've got incredible support. And again, SALDA, thank you. But if we're going to get to that finish line, nobody's going to get me there but me. So how do I do that? Mark Twain said, I've suffered some terrible things in my life, some of which have actually happened. I've suffered some terrible things in my life, some of which have actually happened. How many of those things are we suffering needlessly? How many of the thoughts that are in our head, the worries, the fears, the anxieties, the stresses, are things that are actually going to happen or have happened? How do we let go of those things and figure out how to move forward? And I'm moving to a close now. The thinking that brought you to this place cannot be the thinking that takes you into the future. Why? Because it's changed. Everything has changed. So you can't be thinking what you were thinking before. You've got to think now, but no, you're going to think for the future, because that's how we move into this place called the future, right? It means you need to choose that thinking very, very carefully, because whatever you choose to think, you will get more of. Our thoughts determine our actions. Our thoughts determine our behavior. True story. If I had to ask a vegan or a vegetarian, what are we looking at? They're going to say, Rich, that's my protein. That stuff is yummy. I'm looking at that thinking, those look like seeds to me. If I had to plant those things, I think they're red kidney beans. If I had to plant red kidney beans, right? I plant those seeds. What is going to grow? Red kidney beans? No. Lentils? Chickpeas? Red kidney beans, right? And then I plant something and I sit back and I wait for the fruits. So imagine then if I plant papaya seeds and I sit back waiting for pineapples. Imagine my disappointment when I see papayas. I'm like, where are the pineapples? And the question I want to ask you is, when last did you plant the seeds of negativity in your own brain? Whatever you plant there is going to grow. Whatever you plant there is going to grow. When last did you plant the seeds of negativity in your brain, and somehow the fruits of positivity grew out of that? I can tell you, never. Never have you planted the seeds of negativity in your brain and something positive come up. Whatever you plant in there, you will get more of. You will bear the fruits of whatever the thoughts are that you put in your brain. And for me, I'm grappling the fourth time to figure out, how do I plant more seeds that are going to help me? How do I stop planting those seeds of negativity? How do I, oh. So here's the thing, right? We can say it's harder the second time, the third time, the fourth time. Oh, maybe it just feels harder because you're tired and you're worn down, because you've just had enough, because when is the end? Those are thoughts that you put in your head. Think of some of those other thoughts which make it easier. Those thoughts are, I've been here before. I know what to expect. I've been to the other side of this before. What would make me think I'm not going to make it to the other side again? I know how this works. I know how to handle this situation and environment. No, it's not great, but I know how to handle it. There's a sense of familiarity. It's not new. Whatever you choose to focus on, you will get more of. And lastly, are you the epitome of grit? What is grit other than resilience in action? Grit is resilience in action. As leaders, and all of us are leaders in one way or another, leaders are not judged by the quality of their thinking. Leaders aren't judged by their strategies. Leaders aren't judged by how innovative their thinking is. Leaders are judged by their actions and by their behaviors. That's why it's been so important for me that I get through these Ironman events. This Ironman Wales is one of the 2 hardest Ironman races on the planet. Why did I enter it with brain cancer? Because it's one of the hardest Ironman races on the planet. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. And the conditions on the day were apocalyptic. It's the worst it's ever been at that race, right? But every single step, every single movement, the action made me feel that I'm going to get to the finish line, and this is proving to myself that I can beat brain cancer again. What are the actions that are going to help you to move into that place where you can have radical optimism? The future can and will be better, and I have the power to make it so. You are not a product of your circumstances. You're not a product of anything happening around you right now. You are not. You are a product of your thoughts. So 2 things I want you to do. These are challenges from me to you. I'm looking at you. So simple, yet so powerful. Before you go to bed, I want you to write down the 3 wins of your day. Write it down in your handwriting, not on a device. Your brain loves your handwriting. It loves it. And you're reinforcing concepts. Why is this so important? You're thinking about your day. You think about everything. Something negative comes in. You're like, no. That's not a win. And that's not a win. So you're batting all these thoughts away. And then you're writing down the ones that are wins. So some days for me, it's I got out of the pajamas I slept in last night and I got into some fresh ones. How cool is that? Win for the day, big tick in that box, right? It could be anything. But what happens is when we start to write down the wins of our day, it could be professional life, personal life, it doesn't matter. That's what you go to bed with. Your subconscious is working with these things that it's watched you write down. That's what you wake up with the next day. And then do you know what happens after about a week of doing this? Try me, do it. I'm challenging you. After about a week of doing this, you start to plan things into your day. You put things into your calendar that you know you're going to be able to write down as that evening as a win. Your behavior starts to change purely by starting to focus on wins in your day. And then the last thing I want you to do is an action plan. It's what I call the 5-5-5 action plan. So simple again. Identify 5 things that you need to stop doing. Write them down. 5 things you need to stop doing right now because they are not working for you. They are not good for you. They do not keep you in a good place. If you're working from home and your TV is on all day, turn the damn thing off. You do not need to watch the news all day. It's not helping you. If you're on those WhatsApp groups where it's just negativity and get off those WhatsApp groups. Figure out what these things are that are stopping you, that are hindering you. Maybe you're staying in your pajamas for too long in the day. I know for me, I've had those days where it's been a PJ day. And at the end of the day, I said to Deborah, you know, that actually, it's nice to have the freedom to do that, but it didn't make me feel good. Actually, this isn't good for me. I need to get up and have a shower and put on some work clothes and feel like I am actually working even though I am at home. What are the things you need to stop doing? What are the 5 things you need to keep doing because you've identified that they're working for you right now? Write them down. And what are the 5 things that you need to start doing? Because without change, we can have no future, only a recurring past. You want more yesterdays? Change nothing. You don't want yesterday and yesterday and yesterday? Change things so that you can take control of the future, no matter where you are at right now, no matter what you are facing, no matter what you're thinking. You have the power to change it. 5 things to stop doing, 5 things to keep doing, 5 things to start doing. Thank you very, very much for the gift of your time. Please come and connect with me on socials. I'm quite active there, and I'd love it if you would share some of the joy of your life with me, some of the highlights, some of the lowlights, and let me share mine with yours. But Sabine, thank you so much for hosting me. As I said, I'm happy to stay on. If you've got time for Q&A, I think I might have gone over a little bit. I'm sorry. I'm happy to stay on a little bit. But SALDA, thank you for everything that you're doing as an association, and thank you for putting today together.
Thank you, Richard. We love to hear your journey. I know it's very personal as well. So thank you very much for taking us with you. Just some points that reflect on for me was the magnificent survivor, the radical optimist, what fuels your soul, control your purpose and your thoughts, as well as, of course, the action plan. So thank you. Really, I think those are very pertinent for us during this time. I'd like to open up the floor to any questions. I see some great appreciation out there. Thank you, Richard, so much. Appreciate your willingness to tell your story. Your girls are beautiful.
Aww.
Wow.
Thank you, Herman. Appreciate that. Thank you, Tanya.
Nice.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Yes, awesome. Thank you very much.
I appreciate that.
One thing I could ask, because
Yes.
I don't see any hands at the moment. Obviously, I've been following you on social media as well now. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your bonsai collection?
Oh, I think it's actually amazing. So I was a bonsai fanatic, obsessed many years ago, late 90s, early 2000s, and I had a bonsai business, and it was just this amazing thing that gave me a lot of joy. And then my life fell apart. Moved 10 times in 11 years, and got divorced, and my life really fell apart. And then I got cancer, and just trying to keep these trees alive was a real burden. It was hard for me, and I watched them die, and they were sore. And I'd try and pick up the hobby again, and then something else would happen. And single for a long time, lived on my own. I was relying on watering systems, and we had the great drought of 2019 when I went away for a trip and hadn't turned it on, and then we had the great black frost of 2012, and things got wiped out. And I was so focused on trying to my own survival that I let that one go. And and this is important, is we need to figure out what are the things that define us as a human being. And I always say that there are 5 things that define me as a human being. 5 things that if I can just touch on those 5 things in a day, I'm a happy camper. Because I believe that, it doesn't matter how bad my life is, doesn't matter how negative my diagnosis, doesn't matter, there's no reason not to feel happy in a day. And that's, as I said to you, is what purpose is. What makes us feel happy excites us and gives us a sense of meaning. And we can focus on those things. Happiness isn't a finish line. It doesn't, if I'm in remission, I will then be happy. No, I can be happy today. And I'd lost one of those things that define me. What defines me is the fact that I'm a partner to Deborah. I'm a father to my girls. I'm a creative person. I'm an athlete, and I'm a coach and a teacher and a trainer. And that creative aspect I'd lost. And throughout the cancer journey, I'd done very little from a creativity point of view besides, talks and that. And about a year ago, I picked it up in remission and in lockdown. And it's the joy I've got back. I feel is more balanced. I feel more whole. And it doesn't matter. I think the concept was, but I've been told I'm not going to see these trees next year. So what's the point? No, there is a point. And the point is what it does for me. So identify what those things are that define you as a human being, those things that make you feel happy, excite you, and bring you joy, and spend some time in your day on those things. And maybe that's part of your 555 is some things you need to start doing again or keep doing, because that's what defines you as a human being. Beautiful. Thank you, Richard. Okay, I don't see any other questions, only compliments left, right, and center. I'm just going to double check any hands raised.
Sarah, please correct me if I don't see someone, but I don't see anything.
No, I don't see any hands raised. I just see some extra comments. Thank you for sharing an inspiring story. Absolute remarkable attitude and inspiring. Thank you, Richard. I think that echoes everyone on the call.
Yeah,
Thanks so much for your message.
Okay, I'm going to conclude the call then. Thank you, Richard. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Get your purpose going.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Graham.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.